guys, Sam from Sweetcorn Man, back with another video. The Sweetcorn history segment in this video will be on the nullification crisis. The presidential election of 1832 lasted from November 2nd, 1832 to December 5th, 1832. There were 288 members of the Electoral College and 145 electoral votes were needed to win. This was the first election in which nominating conventions were held, which we still use up to today. For the Democratic Party, President Andrew Jackson of Tennessee chose to run for re-election as every president before him had. Jackson was popular within the Democratic Party, and no Democrat chose to oppose him for the nomination. Vice President John Calhoun had broken with Jackson and the Democrats over the Peggy Eaton affair and the nullification crisis, the latter of which I will discuss for Sweetcorn history. But anyway, neither Jackson or Calhoun wanted to run with each other. As such, the candidates for Jackson's running mate were U.S. Representative Richard Johnson of Kentucky, former Minister to the United Kingdom Martin Van Buren of New York, and Judge on the U.S. District Court in the Eastern District of Virginia, Philip Barber. The first Democratic National Convention was held from May 21st, 1832 to May 23rd, 1832 in Baltimore, Maryland. At the convention, Jackson won all 283 delegates, securing his nomination. For the vice presidential nomination, Johnson won 26 votes, Barber won 49 votes, and Van Buren won 208 votes from the delegates. As such, the Democrats nominated Jackson for president and Van Buren for vice president. For the National Republicans, U.S. Senator Henry Clay of Kentucky, who was the leader of the party after John Quincy Adams left, was the ideal choice for the presidency in the eyes of many National Republicans. The only major candidate for the vice presidential nomination was former U.S. Representative John Sargent of Pennsylvania. The National Republican Convention was held from December 12, 1831 to December 13, 1831, also in Baltimore, Maryland. There, Clay won the nomination for president, winning 167 of 168 delegates, with one delegate declining to vote as he believed Clay could not win against Jackson. Sargent won the nomination for vice president, winning 64 out of 70 delegates, with 6 delegates declining to vote. This was the first election to have third parties. Although candidates James Monroe, DeWitt Clinton, and Rufus King previously ran to gain votes from disaffected members of their parties, they all ran as members of their party and never created a third party. 2 third parties emerged during the period between the last election and this election: the Anti-Masonic Party and the Nullified Party. The Anti-Masonic Party was the first third party in America. It strongly opposed Freemasonry, as the name suggested. They were founded after William Morgan, a former Freemason who became critical of Freemasonry, went missing. The Anti-Masons believed that Masons had kidnapped and killed him. The Masons were pro-internal improvements and pro-tariff. They considered themselves an anti-elitist party. The candidates for the anti-Mason presidential nomination were Supreme Court Justice John McClain of Ohio, U.S. Representative John Quincy Adams of Massachusetts, former Secretary of the Treasury Richard Rush of Pennsylvania, and former Attorney General William Wirt of Virginia. The candidates for the vice presidential nomination were former Pennsylvania Attorney General Amos Ellmaker and former Speaker of the New York State Assembly John Spencer. Party leaders did not want to run Adams as they felt he was unpopular, and as such he was mostly left out of the consideration. The Anti-Masons also had their convention in Baltimore, Maryland from September 26, 1831 to September 28, 1831, where the vote was 1 vote for Richard Rush and 108 votes for William Wirt. Two delegates declined to vote. Both John McClain and John Quincy Adams won 0 delegates. For the vice presidency, 1 vote for John Spencer, 108 votes for for Amos Elmaker. One delegate declined to vote. As such, the party's presidential candidate was William Wirt, and the vice presidential candidate was Amos Elmaker. However, Wirt himself was a Freemason, and had hoped for the National Republicans to decline to nominate a candidate and instead support him, similar to DeWitt Clinton in 1812. However, when Henry Clay was nominated, Wirt's chances of winning the election were next to nothing, and he was put in an awkward position due to his Freemasonry. The Nullified Party was founded by John Calhoun and was made up of former Democrats who opposed President Jackson's handling of the nullification controversy. The Nullifiers believed that states had the right to nullify federal laws that they did not approve of. The Nullified Party was conservative on government power, liberal on economics, anti-tariff, and pro-slavery. Calhoun declined to run for the presidency, and instead the party's ticket was Governor of Virginia John Floyd for president, and economist Henry Lee of Massachusetts for vice president. The Nullifiers did not run a campaign outside of the state of South Carolina. The biggest issue of the election was the Second National Bank Charter. President Jackson had vetoed a bill for the renewal of the bank's charter. Jackson hated banks in general, viewing them as a detriment to economic growth, and believed their conservative policies to be tough on the so-called common man. Jackson argued that the banks only cared for the wealthy. On the other hand, Clay was a big supporter of the bank and attacked Jackson's vetoes as an overreach of power. National Republicans likened Jackson to a monarch as opposed to a supporter of the common man, and dubbed him King Andrew I. Clay argued that closing the bank would hurt borrowers. Another issue was the Indian Removal Act, which Jackson had signed in 1830. This law forced members of the 5 civilized tribes, or the Cherokees, Chickasaws, Choctaws, Seminoles, and Creeks, to relocate from the state of Georgia to unorganized territory west of the Mississippi. This is where the Trail of Tears occurred. Jackson argued that the destruction of tribal nations was inevitable. On the other hand, Clay, who although earlier in his career had said that Native Americans were subhuman, now said that Native Americans had a right to their sovereignty, and said that Jackson's acts brought shame to the United States. The Nullifiers stayed away from the major issues, instead arguing that Jackson did not respect states' rights due to his handling of the nullification controversy. The results: Andrew Jackson won re-election in a landslide, winning 219 electoral votes from the states of New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Ohio, North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Maine, Indiana, New Jersey, Alabama, New Hampshire, Illinois, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, and Maryland. Jackson won 701,780 popular votes, or 54.23% of the total. 30 Democratic electors declined to vote for Martin Van Buren, instead voting for U.S. Senator William Wilkins of Pennsylvania for vice president. Henry Clay won 49 electoral votes from Kentucky, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Maryland, Rhode Island, and Delaware. Clay won 484,205 popular votes, or 37.42% of the total. Nullified John Floyd won 11 electoral votes, all from South Carolina. Floyd won 0 popular votes, as South Carolina was the only state where he was on the ballot, did not have popular votes. Rather, the electors were chosen by state legislators. Anti-Mason William Wirt won 7 electoral votes, all from Vermont. Wirt won 100,715 popular votes, or 7.78% of the total. As such, on March 4, 1833, Andrew Jackson was re-inaugurated as president, and Martin Van Buren was inaugurated as vice president. Alright, time for Sweet Corn history. After the Tariff of 1828 was passed by John Quincy Adams in 1828, Southerners in South Carolina were outraged. Vice President John Calhoun believed that states should have the right to nullify or not obey federal laws that they didn't see fit. In 1830, a debate took place in the United States Senate between pro-nullification Democrat Robert Hayne of South Carolina and anti-nullification National Republican Daniel Webster of Massachusetts. The Nullifiers expected Jackson to side with them. However, on April 13, 1830, at a celebration celebrating the deceased Thomas Jefferson's 87th birthday, Jackson made a toast stating, "Our federal union, it must be preserved." Put off, Calhoun stated, "The Union, next to our liberty, the most dear." In 1832, Jackson signed a new law which lowered tariff rates. However, Calhoun was extremely angry with Jackson's handling of the situation and resigned as vice president on December 28, 1832. South Carolina nullified the tariffs. When Jackson threatened to send federal troops to South Carolina, the state threatened to secede from the Union. Jackson sent troops to the border of South Carolina while Calhoun and U.S. Senator Henry Clay of Kentucky made a compromise bill. The tariff of 1833, created by Clay and Calhoun, would gradually decrease tariff rates until they reached a rate of 20%. The tariff of 1833 passed in the House of Representatives with a vote of 119 to 85, and in the Senate with a vote of 29 to 16. President Andrew Jackson also urged the Congress to pass the Force Bill, which expanded presidential power and rejected the notion of the right of a state to nullify federal laws. The Force Bill passed in the House of Representatives with a vote of 149 to 48, and in the Senate with a vote of 32 to 1. South Carolina backed down, even though they believed that they had won in the exchange. Alright, that's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this entertaining and informative. See ya. Oh, wait. I forgot to mention, check out the Discord server if you haven't. The link is in the description. And yeah, that's it. See ya.